I want to tell you exactly what I pulled out of my garden last October. Not roughly, not approximately, exactly. 47 distinct tomato varieties, 11 types of dry bean, 8 squash, 4 varieties of sweet pepper, and 2 of hot. All from a single growing space measuring 10 feet wide and 10 feet deep. I know how that sounds. I would have rolled my eyes at it too, 3 years ago. But here's the thing. I didn't buy a single seed packet that season. Not one. Every seed I planted came from an envelope I'd filled with my own hands the year before. And every one of those envelopes traces back to a root cellar in Augusta County, Virginia, and a 74-year-old Mennonite woman named Mary, who taught me a system her grandmother taught her. That system has been running, uninterrupted, in Mennonite communities in the Shenandoah Valley for over 160 years. No seed catalog, no corporation, no subscription. Just paper envelopes, pencil labels, and a discipline so simple it almost doesn't seem real until you're standing in front of the results. I stood in that root cellar and I could smell the place before my eyes adjusted to the light. Dry earth, old paper, something else I still can't name, something like the inside of a very old book. Wooden drawers labeled in German, envelopes worn soft at the corners, and Mary, reciting germination rates from memory for varieties I'd never heard of. Varieties that don't exist in any catalog. Varieties that have never left that valley. Before I walk you through the system, I want to ask you something. If you're the kind of person who believes that real gardening knowledge, the kind that actually works, the kind that used to be passed down instead of sold, is worth protecting, hit subscribe right now. We're a community here of gardeners who are done outsourcing what we should know ourselves. Every week, we go deeper into the methods that the seed companies and garden centers have no interest in teaching you. It costs nothing to be part of it, and what you'll get in return is worth more than any packet on any rack. Now, here's what I promised you. Stick around to the end of this video because I'm going to share the one technique Mary uses to protect her most irreplaceable varieties. Something she told me she has never written down. Something I have not seen in any seed-saving guide, anywhere. It's the thing I think about most out of everything she showed me that day. Today I'm walking you through the complete Mennonite seed-saving system. 6 steps, 1 10 by 10 bed, and a principle so simple it'll make you wonder why you ever bought a seed packet at all. Here's what most people don't understand about seed saving. They think it's about frugality, about not spending money on seeds. That's the surface. That's not why Mennonite communities have done this for 160 years without interruption. The Mennonite concept underlying this is called Gelassenheit, a yielding to something larger than yourself. In the garden, it means you are not the owner of a plant. You are the steward of a lineage. Your job is not to grow a tomato. Your job is to pass it forward. That one shift in thinking changes everything about how you select, how you harvest, and how you store. The seed doesn't belong to you. It belongs to next year, and the year after that, and the family down the road who might need it when everything else fails. That's not a philosophy tip. That's an instruction manual. And here's why conventional seed buying gets this completely backwards. Every time you purchase a hybrid packet, you're paying a corporation for seeds that cannot be saved. That's by design. The plant produces, the line ends, you go back to the store. It's not a gardening system. It's a subscription model with dirt. The Mennonite system produces the opposite result. One good season feeds the next 10. Here's the science behind why this actually works, and why hybrid seeds can't do the same thing. Open pollinated seeds carry what plant breeders call genetic memory. Every time you save seed from your strongest plant, the one that held up through the drought, the one that wasn't touched by blight, you are selecting for those traits. Intentionally or not, you are doing low-grade plant breeding. Agronomists at Virginia Tech have documented this in heritage seed populations. Open pollinated varieties saved in the same location for 5 or more consecutive generations begin to locally adapt. Germination rates climb. Disease resistance shifts to match local pathogen pressure. Drought tolerance aligns with your specific rainfall pattern. Your seeds, over time, become seeds for your garden. Not a garden in California, not a test plot in the Netherlands. Yours. Hybrid seeds, by contrast, are engineered for uniformity. One-size-fits-all commercial operations. When you save from a hybrid, the genetics scramble. You get unpredictable results in the second generation. The company calls this F2 breakdown. I call it a business model. That's the science. Genetic memory plus intentional selection plus local adaptation. Say it once and you'll never forget why you're doing this. Step 1. Mother plant selection. The first decision that cannot be undone. In Mennonite practice, the seed-saving plant is chosen before the harvest plant. Those are two different plants. Not the biggest tomato you ate and liked. The plant that performed best all season. Here's what to look for. First to flower, last to show disease. Upright posture in wet conditions. Heavy fruit set with few drop-offs. These are the traits you're selecting for. Not taste, not size. This is where most home gardeners leave an entire generation of improvement on the table. They save from the fruit they happen to enjoy. That's a recipe for a flat seed line. Choose your mother plant by the second week of July. Mark it with a stake. Don't harvest from it for eating. Let it go fully to seed. Mennonite communities in Augusta County have been doing this for so long that their seed lines perform measurably better on their own land than commercial equivalents. That didn't happen by accident. It happened by choosing the right plant year after year. The mother plant offers what it's offered to these families for 160 years. Selection pressure that compounds across generations. Step 2. Isolation distance. The problem you can't see. Cross-pollination is invisible. That's why most gardeners never think about it until they grow something strange the following season and wonder what went wrong. For tomatoes, a 10-foot buffer is sufficient. They're largely self-pollinating. For peppers, squash, and corn, you need 300 feet or more, or physical separation using paper bags over the flower before it opens. In a 10 by 10 garden, you solve this with time, not space. The Mennonite technique is sequential isolation. You don't grow 2 squash varieties simultaneously. You grow one this year, save seed, grow the other next year. Never side by side, never same season. This is how a 10 by 10 bed can produce 200 distinct varieties across a 5-year rotation without a single cross-contamination event. It's not about space, it's about discipline and planning. What to avoid? Growing the same species from multiple varieties in one season, unless you're willing to do hand pollination with a small paintbrush and paper bag, which is how Mary in Augusta County handles her melons. Mennonite gardeners have been managing isolation this way, without ever buying a second piece of land, for generations. Step 3. Harvest timing. Most people pick too early by exactly 3 weeks. Seed maturity is not the same as fruit maturity. A tomato you'd eat at peak flavor is carrying seeds at roughly 60 to 70% maturity. Edible, not savable. The seeds need to stay on the plant until the fruit is past ripe, beginning to soften, slightly wrinkled, what most people would throw in the compost. For dry-seeded crops like beans and squash, the rule is the plant tells you. Leave it until the vine is brown and the seed rattles in the pod or cavity. If it doesn't rattle, it's not ready. The specific window for tomato seed harvest is when the fruit has fully colored, softened, and the gel sac around each seed has begun to ferment naturally on the plant. You'll see slight skin wrinkling. That fermentation process, which I'll explain in the next step, is not incidental. It is the method. What to avoid? Pulling seed from any fruit you're also eating at table quality. If it was good enough to eat at peak ripeness, it wasn't ready to save. This timing principle is what Mennonite families have relied on for 160 years, and it's why their germination rates routinely exceed 90% on stored seed. Step 4. Fermentation cleaning. The step the seed companies don't mention. Tomato seeds are surrounded by a germination-inhibiting gel. Left on, that gel suppresses sprouting. The Mennonite method dissolves it the same way nature does, fermentation. Scoop seeds and pulp into a jar. Add just enough water to cover. Set it in a warm place. 70 degrees is ideal, for exactly 2 to 3 days. Not 4, not 5. On day 2 or 3, a white or gray mold layer will form on top. Viable seeds sink to the bottom. Non-viable seeds and debris float. Pour off everything floating. Rinse the sunken seeds under cool water using a fine mesh strainer. Spread them on a ceramic plate or glass dish. Never paper towels. The seeds bond to the fibers and tear when you try to remove them. This is a specific detail I learned from watching, not from reading. Dry them at room temperature for 5 to 7 days until they snap instead of bend when you fold them. For beans, squash, corn, and other dry crops, there is no fermentation step. Dry on the plant, shell, and air dry indoors for 2 weeks before storage. What to avoid? Using a food dehydrator or oven. Heat above 95 degrees Fahrenheit kills viability. Slow ambient drying is the only method that works reliably across all species. This fermentation cleaning process is what preserves the germination integrity that makes Mennonite saved seeds consistently outperform store-bought on the 2nd and 3rd year. Step 5. The envelope system. 200 varieties in one shoebox. Mary uses paper coin envelopes, 3.5 inches by 2.5 inches. Plain, white, unsealed until labeling is complete. On each envelope, she writes 4 things in pencil. Never pen, because pencil doesn't fade in humidity. The variety name, the year saved, the mother plant number, and a 1-word note on performance. Words like drought, early, prolific, or keeper. Those 4 data points are a breeding record. Over 20 years of envelopes, she can trace the performance history of every variety in her collection. She doesn't use a spreadsheet. She doesn't need one. The envelopes go into labeled wooden drawers. Each drawer is 1 species, stored at 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit with a silica gel packet. The root cellar maintains this temperature naturally. No electricity required. For gardeners without a root cellar, a second refrigerator set to its warmest setting, or a cool basement corner with a sealed tin container, replicates the conditions within acceptable range. What to avoid? Storing in glass jars without desiccant in humid climates. Condensation will kill your seed stock faster than any pest. The envelope system is what allows a single Shenandoah Valley family to steward over 200 active varieties from a garden not much larger than a parking space. Step 6. The grow-out rotation. The one rule that keeps a collection alive. A seed collection is not a library. It's a living system. It dies if you don't use it. Mennonite communities use a simple rule. Every variety must be grown out at least once every 5 years to maintain viability and refresh the seed stock. They call it running the collection. It is scheduled, not optional. In a 10 by 10 garden with sequential isolation, a 5-year rotation means you can maintain 40 to 50 actively managed varieties at any given time, while carrying the rest in cold storage. Tomatoes, peppers, and cucumbers are grown in years 1 and 2, squash and melons in year 3, beans and greens in years 4 and 5. Back to tomatoes. The grow-out serves two purposes: refreshing germination vigor and continuing the selection pressure that adapts each variety to your specific microclimate. What to avoid? Saving seed from a grow-out year where plants suffered significant disease pressure. You'll select for susceptibility, not resistance. If a grow-out year goes badly, source fresh seed from a trusted exchange and restart the line. This rotation principle is the engine that keeps a Mennonite seed collection productive across not just one lifetime, but several generations. Now, what I've walked you through today is the framework of this system, but there's a lot I haven't been able to cover in one video. The full variety selection list for a first-time 10 by 10 collection, the specific regional varieties suited to different growing zones, and the isolation timing charts that make sequential planting much easier to plan. I've put all of that into a complete seed-saving guide that goes deeper than what we have time for here. If you want access to it, the link is in the description. Or, if you're watching this on your television, just point your phone at the QR code on screen right now. It's one piece of a much larger picture, but it's the piece that'll take everything I've shown you today and turn it into something you can actually execute on day one. Here are the patterns I see most often in conventional seed saving. No judgment. I did every one of these myself. Pattern 1. Saving from the best fruit instead of the best plant. The tomato you ate in August that tasted incredible. That was selection for your palate. The plant it came from may have been the weakest performer in the row. Taste and genetic fitness are not the same thing. I made this mistake for 6 consecutive years and couldn't figure out why my saved seeds kept underperforming. Pattern 2. Drying seeds on paper towels. Seems fine, looks fine, but the seeds bond to the paper fibers during drying and tear when removed, creating tiny wounds that compromise germination. Ceramic or glass only. Pattern 3. Storing seed in the garage. Temperature fluctuation, cold nights, warm afternoons, is more destructive to seed viability than sustained cold or sustained warmth. A garage that swings from 30 degrees to 75 degrees across a single day is a seed-killing environment. The consistency matters more than the exact temperature. Pattern 4. Treating the collection as permanent. Seeds are not wine. They don't improve indefinitely with age. Most vegetable seeds drop below usable germination rates after 3 to 6 years, depending on species. A collection you haven't grown out is a collection that's quietly dying. Pattern 5. Trying to maintain too many varieties too fast. I see this a lot with first-year seed savers. They acquire 80 varieties, try to grow them all out in year 1, abandon the system by August because it became overwhelming. Start with 6 varieties. Master the system on 6. Scale from there. The Mennonite approach scales up from mastery of the fundamentals, not sideways from excitement about variety counts. Here's what I promised you at the beginning. The one thing Mary showed me that I haven't seen documented anywhere. She calls it the witness envelope. For every variety she considers irreplaceable, the ones her grandmother saved, the ones with no known commercial equivalent, she maintains what she described to me as a sleeping copy, a second envelope of that seed, sealed, never opened, stored at the back of the wooden drawer behind the active stock. Every 7 years, she opens the witness envelope, germination tests 5 seeds, and, if viability is still above 70%, she reseals it and puts it back. If viability has dropped, she refreshes the witness from her current stock before it degrades further. She has a Brandywine tomato line in a witness envelope that she believes is at least 4 generations old, saved from her mother's mother's garden in Page County. That line has never left her root cellar. It has never been on the internet. It cannot be purchased. The witness envelope is your insurance policy, not against disaster, against your own forgetfulness, against the year you get sick and miss the grow out, against the flood, against time. I keep 12 witness envelopes now. I started with 1. Here's the one thing I want you to take away from everything I've shown you today. A seed is not an input. It's a record. Every variety you save is a record of a plant that survived, that adapted, that performed well enough in your specific garden, in your specific climate, that you chose to carry it forward. Across decades, that record becomes something no corporation can manufacture and no catalog can sell. The Mennonite communities in the Shenandoah Valley didn't build collections of 200 varieties because they were hobbyists. They did it because they understood something about resilience that the modern garden center model actively works against. That diversity is the only hedge against failure, and that diversity lives in seeds, not on shelves. A 10 by 10 bed. 6 steps. 1 core principle. The seed belongs to next year. Everything else is just how you take care of it. If you've been gardening for years and feeling like the results never quite match the effort, this is usually why. Not your soil, not your timing, the seeds themselves. The complete guide, variety lists, isolation timing charts, the regional starter collections by growing zone is linked in the description. Or point your phone at the QR code on screen now if you're watching this from your living room. And I want to know, are you a tomato seed saver, a bean keeper, or are you just getting started with your first collection? Drop it in the comments. I read every one, and the answers genuinely shape what I cover next. If this is the kind of gardening you believe in, real knowledge, not retail dependency, subscribe. We're building something here that has nothing to do with what's on the shelves at the garden center. I'll see you in the next one.